The earthquake had stolen more than just buildings. It had pilfered accountability, buried truth under tons of rubble. For Charlie, it had been the ultimate get-out-of-hell card, a seismic absolution for the scream that had died too quickly by his hands, for the life he'd extinguished in a fit of unforeseeable rage. Sally. Her name was a phantom limb, aching with a presence that was no longer there, a constant dull throb beneath the surface of his fractured reality. Now, months later, the dust had settled, both literally and figuratively. The city was a patchwork of recovery and ruin, and Charlie was a resident of Shelter Block D, a cavernous hall teeming with the displaced, the lost, and the broken. His humble cot, a thin mattress on a metal frame, was a stark contrast to the life he'd once known, the life he'd shattered in a moment of irreversible madness. The earthquake had shaken the world, but it had truly cracked something fundamental within Charlie. The adrenaline that had surged through him in the aftermath, the frantic scramble to maintain his lie amidst the chaos, had long since dissipated, leaving behind a gnawing emptiness. Depression clung to him like the damp shelter air, a heavy, suffocating blanket that made even the simplest tasks feel monumental. Sunlight, when it dared to pierce the grime-streaked windows, offered no warmth, only a stark reminder of the vibrancy he felt incapable of experiencing. Anxiety was a constant companion, a jittery energy that buzzed beneath his skin, especially when sleep refused to come. Every siren in the distance, every raised voice in the crowded hall sent a jolt of panic through him. He was always waiting for the knock, the question, the dawning of suspicion in someone's eyes. The faces around him, etched with their own traumas, sometimes morphed in his mind's eye, their expressions hardening into accusation. It was in this bleak landscape that he found a flicker of something akin to solace. Her name was Maya. She had a smile that seemed to hold its own light, a gentle kindness that she offered freely to everyone in the shelter. Her voice was soft, often laced with a quiet understanding that transcended the shared hardship. She'd lost her small bakery in the quake, a dream kneaded and baked into existence over years, yet she moved with resilience that Charlie envied, a quiet strength that seemed to emanate from her very core. Maya would often sit with him during the meager evening meals, her presence a calming balm to his frayed nerves. She'd talk about her dreams of rebuilding, of the smell of yeast and warm bread filling the air again. He found himself listening, truly listening for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Her optimism was a foreign language he was slowly beginning to understand. But Maya had her own demons, a shadow that would occasionally eclipse her light, meth. It was a cruel irony, a shared escape in a place born of disaster. When the craving took hold, her sweet demeanor would curdle, her eyes would sharpen with a frantic energy, her voice would become brittle, and a possessive jealousy would consume her. It was during these episodes that Charlie's carefully constructed wall of denial would begin to crumble. Under the influence, Maya's features would subtly shift in his distorted perception. Her blonde hair, usually neatly tied back, would fall loose, framing a face that, in the flickering shelter lights, would eerily resemble Sally's. Her words, laced with meth-fueled paranoia, would echo the accusations that had swirled in Sally's eyes in those final, frantic moments. The kindness vanished, replaced by a raw, wounded fury that mirrored the rage he'd once felt, the rage that had driven him to the unthinkable, a cold, familiar feeling that would begin to simmer within Charlie. He'd find himself staring at Maya, his heart hammering against his ribs, the shelter noise fading into a muffled hum. The injustice of it all would claw at him. He had been freed by chance, by the earth's violent shudder while Sally was gone forever. And now this woman, with her fleeting drug-induced transformation, was stirring the darkness he desperately tried to bury. The fantasies began, insidious whispers in the hollow spaces of his mind. He'd see the knife in his hand again, the blood pooling around her blonde hair, the feeling of relief after he got away with it, intoxicating. This time, though, there would be no earthquake, no convenient act of God to mask his sin. This time, it would be him, plain and simple, under the harsh scrutiny of a world that had already suffered enough. The urge would be potent, fueled by the resurfacing rage and the distorted image of his dead girlfriend. He'd clench his fists, his knuckles white, the muscles in his jaw tight. He'd imagine the silence that would follow, the sudden terrifying stillness. But something, a tiny ember of what might once have been a conscience, would hold him back. Perhaps it was the lingering echo of Maya's kindness in her sober moments, much like when Sally was off the bottle. Or maybe it was a primal fear, a stark understanding that a second time would offer no escape, only the crushing weight of consequence. He would look away, his gaze fixed on the cracked concrete floor, the tremor in his hands a stark reminder of the violence he was capable of. The fantasy would recede, leaving behind a bitter taste of self-loathing and a chilling awareness of the darkness that still resided within him. A darkness that the earthquake had merely concealed, not extinguished. He hadn't killed her, not yet. But the ground beneath his fragile recovery felt dangerously unstable once more.